The chain around Anwen Pike's wrist tightened, just as the river began to breathe. No one else noticed. The people gathered at Blackwater crossing were watching the royal executioner lift an iron hook toward the ferry charter nailed above Anwen's landing. They had come to see her livelihood torn down, her boat seized, and the widow accused of drowning their king's bride forbidden from ever crossing the river again. Anwen watched the water. Blackwater did not move like an ordinary river. It pulled beneath itself in long, unseen coils, carrying drowned branches upstream, and returning lost objects seasons after they vanished. Ferry families learned its moods before they learned prayer. Today, the current had gone still. King Leoric Fenwick stood on the bridge above her in a dark ceremonial cloak, one hand resting on the stone rail. His face had sharpened in the 6 weeks since Lady Malin Harrow's wedding barge sank. Grief had hollowed the skin beneath his gray eyes, but it had not weakened the authority in his voice. Anwen Pike, you were entrusted with the royal crossing. Under your guidance, the bridal vessel entered the widow's channel during flood warning. Lady Malin Harrow did not return. Anwen's wet-weather cloak had been taken as evidence. She stood in a plain brown dress while winter wind pressed the fabric against her legs. 5 others returned, she said. Murmurs moved through the crowd. Prince Anwen Fenwick stood beside his brother, dressed in river-black wool with the silver wolf of the royal house at his throat. Because the guard boats reached them, Anwen said. Because I pulled them from beneath the overturned hull. You were found alone on the eastern bank. After the current carried me half a mile. And the bride? Anwen looked toward the deepest part of the river. I went down 3 times. A stone struck the mud beside her boot. Someone in the crowd called her jealous. Another called her a failed lover who had watched another woman take the place she wanted. Leoric did not silence them. That hurt more than the stone. Before the crown, before the council chose Malin, Leoric had sat beside Anwen on the ferry roof and listened to rain strike the river. He had once known the difference between her silence and surrender. He had once promised that no decree would make him look at her through another man's judgment. Then his father died. The border pacts threatened revolt, and Leoric accepted a marriage that could secure 3 river provinces. He had not chosen Anwen. Now he would not even hear her. The steering chain did not fail, she said. It was released after we entered the channel. Anwen's expression remained calm. The wreckage showed a broken chain. It showed an open fastening. 6 weeks beneath Blackwater can open iron. Not cleanly. The royal assessor had refused to record that difference. He had inspected the visible wreckage, while the deeper section remained trapped beneath the cursed current. Anwen had asked for the hearing to wait until the river lowered. Anwen had called delay an insult to Malin's memory. Leoric had agreed. He had not drowned Malin with his hands. He had drowned the only delay that might have let the river speak. Grief had not made him cruel. It had made certainty irresistible. The executioner hooked the ferry charter. Anwen heard wood strain above the landing. The charter had belonged to the Pike family for 4 generations. Her husband, Bran Pike, had died protecting it during a spring flood 7 years earlier. Since then, Anwen had rowed merchants, soldiers, birthing women, and winter children across Blackwater without losing a passenger. Until the wedding barge. Leoric unfolded the confiscation decree. Your ferry, landing, ropes, toll rights, and river stores are transferred to royal custody. You are forbidden from operating any vessel within the Fenwick waterways. Anwen lifted her chained hands. You are giving the crossing to the same office that selected the wedding route. Anwen answered before Leoric could. The route was chosen for royal security. The widow's channel is never secure during snowmelt. You approved passage. I approved the western span. Your messenger changed the marker after the procession launched. The crowd quieted. Anwen descended 1 step toward her. That allegation was investigated. By your river clerk. By the crown. Anwen looked past him to Leoric. You signed away the difference. Something moved in his face. Not belief. Memory. He remembered her teaching him to read the current when they were young. He remembered that she never confused the western span with widow's channel. But memory had not stopped his hand from signing the decree. The marker post carried your ferry seal, he said. My seal was taken from the boathouse the night before the wedding. You reported no theft. I discovered it missing after the river took the barge. Anwen's voice softened with practiced sorrow. My brother has buried his bride without a body. Do not ask him to bury reason beside her. Anwen felt the words settle across the crowd. The poor widow against the grieving king. The former lover against the dead bride. The ferrywoman against the prince. Every part had been arranged before she entered the chains. The executioner pulled. Anwen's charter tore free from the post. At that exact moment, Blackwater flowed backward. The sound began beneath the bridge, a deep rushing breath. Too slow for floodwater, and too vast for any ordinary beast. Ice along the banks cracked in a single line. Horses reared. Royal guards reached for their swords. Anwen did not move. She had rode through floods that made stronger men pray aloud. She would not flinch from a river that had finally remembered what the court refused to hold. A shape rose beneath the surface. First came two pale eyes. Then a head formed from black water, larger than a warhorse's, with streaming ears and a muzzle made from current and moonlit foam. Riverweed hung from its neck like drowned fur. Water poured through its ribs without breaking their shape. The river wolf had not been seen at Blackwater Crossing in 80 years. Old fairy law said it did not rescue the innocent or punish the guilty. It kept what was freely given at the instant one life was chosen over another, and it returned such things only when the choice had been falsely named. It did not know murder from mercy, guilt from grief, or prince from ferryman. It followed only the river debt tied to the thing freely given. Something white hung between its teeth. A bridal veil. The crowd recoiled. Leoric's hand closed around the bridge rail. Anwen remembered the overturned barge. The freezing dark. Malin's fingers closing around her wrist beneath the water. The bride had not clawed at Anwen for rescue. She had pressed a knotted piece of veil into Anwen's palm and pushed her toward a trapped cabin boy. Save him. The current had torn the cloth from Anwen before she reached the surface. Now the river wolf climbed from Blackwater without disturbing the mud. It passed the chained widow. It passed the executioner and the king. The wolf had not accused Osvan. It carried only what Malin had freely given in the moment she chose another life over her own. The creature stopped before the royal brothers. The veil fell from its jaws and landed across Osvan's boots. Something heavy remained tied inside its silver knot. The weight inside the veil answered the river silver clasp at Osvan's throat. The knot swung once toward the matching metal. Osvan stepped backward. For the first time since the wedding barge sank, the king's brother looked afraid. The river wolf had not accused Osvan. It had returned the thing Malin gave before the court turned mercy into murder. Prince Osvan looked down at the veil across his boots. A drowned cloth proves nothing. No, Anwen said. But knots remember what frightened hands had no time to explain. The river wolf remained beside the bridge, its body flowing without losing shape. It did not bare its teeth at Osvan. It did not bow to Anwen. The current held it only because the debt tied to Malin's veil had not yet been witnessed. Osvan touched the black river silver clasp at his throat. Royal stores use this metal in bridge chains, route markers, ceremonial harness, and half the clasps worn by the river guard. Whatever lies inside that veil could answer any royal fitting. Then we open it under witness. The executioner still held the iron hook through Anwen's torn charter. Leoric raised one hand. Stop. The hook lowered. The charter remained split across the grain, one corner hanging from the landing post. Preserve the veil, Leoric ordered. Suspend the confiscation until the object is examined. Anwen looked at him. Suspended is not returned. No. Do not call delay mercy after denying it to the river. He did not defend himself. Remove her wrist chain. Anwen Pike is granted temporary river, witness standing for this examination. The executioner unlocked her cuffs. Leoric had stopped the charter hook. He had not returned the crossing. The ferry remained under royal seizure. Her toll box was sealed. Her boats were tied beneath crown guard. Temporary standing allowed her to explain Blackwater evidence, not command the landing 4 generations of Pike hands had kept alive. Anwen flexed the numbness from her fingers and knelt beside the veil. She did not touch it immediately. 3 witnesses. 1 ferry hand, 1 bridge officer, and 1 person with no Fenwick wage. Osvan's mouth tightened. You are not conducting a royal hearing. I am keeping your hearing from losing another difference. Leoric appointed the oldest surviving Pike ferryman, the western bridge keeper, and a mill widow whose sons crossed Blackwater each winter. Only after they recorded the veil's condition did Anwen lift it from the mud. The fabric had been torn from Malin's bridal train. One side carried harrow silver stitching. The other was dark with river silt. The knot was not decorative. It was a ferryman's drowning knot, 3 loops tightened around a hard object so the river could not easily strip it away. A veil is not a witness, Osvan said. No, Malin made it carry one. Anwen loosened the outer lope. The knot resisted at the center, drawn tight by a hand working underwater. She remembered Malin beneath the overturned barge. Not jealous, not pleading for Leoric. Terrified, but precise. Save him. The bride had pushed Anwen toward the trapped cabin boy, then closed her fingers around the veil knot as though making sure the river took nothing without weight. The final loop opened. A black river silver pin fell into Anwen's palm. Across the mud, the river wolf lowered its head once. The debt had been witnessed. What remained would have to be read by hands, metal, roots, and records. Its body collapsed into Blackwater without a splash. The current resumed beneath the bridge. Anwen examined the pin. It was the length of her smallest finger, flat on one side and forked at the end. A crescent of dark wood remained caught beneath its locking tooth. The bridge keeper leaned closer. That is a route marker, keeper, Osvan answered at once. Or part of one, not part. The full keeper. Each navigation post along Blackwater carried a colored route plate. The plate could not be changed without removing a keeper pin from the rear housing. Ferry families used iron keepers. Royal processions used river silver because it resisted the cursed current. The wood beneath the locking tooth bore half an impressed mark. A pike with its mouth open. Anwen's ferry seal. Murmurs rose along the bank. You claimed your seal was stolen, Osvan said. Its presence on a royal route fitting does not prove who used it. No. Anwen did not give him an accusation easier to defeat. It proves the altered marker was fastened with my stolen authority. Leoric descended from the bridge, but stopped beyond her reach. Does it match the wedding marker? The rear housing must be opened. The bridge officer removed the altered route plate under witness. Its keeper slot carried a clean, empty channel. No broken metal. No corrosion fracture. Someone had withdrawn the original keeper, changed the plate toward Widow's Channel, and inserted the river silver pin bearing Anwen's seal. The marker did not fail, she said. It was changed. Osvan looked toward Blackwater. 6 weeks beneath that river could press wood against metal and alter both. Blackwater moves weight. It does not carve a locking tooth around the exact depth of a marker housing. River pressure corrupts evidence. It does not create a clean release. The royal assessor shifted uneasily. He had recorded the marker as flood damaged without opening its rear housing. Leoric faced him. Raise the steering chain wreckage. The lower hull remains beneath Widow's Channel. Send divers with pike guidance. Anwen's chaza hardened. You would trust my guidance now? I am ordering the evidence preserved. That is not the same thing. No. By dusk, divers brought up the wedding barge's steering assembly. Mud packed the wheel housing. River weed coiled around the chain. The assessor pointed to a separated link. Broca under strain. Anwen washed the fastening with clean water. The main chain had twisted after the hull struck the channel wall. One link had cracked then, but the steering release sat 3 inches above it. Open. Its spring tongue remained intact. The chain did not break first, Anwen said. It was taught to open. She demonstrated with a ferryman's tool. A narrow keeper pin inserted beneath the spring tongue released the steering chain without damaging the housing. The river silver pin from Malin's veil matched the opening. Osvan remained composed. Royal River officers carry similar tools. A security change may have been ordered after the procession launched. Then the messenger record will name it. Leoric ordered the wedding route register opened. The original line named the western span, exactly as Anwen had testified. A later order redirected the procession to Widow's Channel. The route did not change in the water. It changed on paper before the river was blamed. The order bore Leoric's royal seal. His face went still. I issued no route change. Then someone may have misused your seal, Osvan said. As someone misused Anwen's. The messenger token attached to the altered order was black river silver, cut along one edge with 3 narrow teeth. The private courier cut of Prince Anwen Fenwick. A cut was not a hand. A token was not a confession. The token had not named Osvan. It had only proved his messenger rode beside the king's seal. The token named his messenger. The order above it carried the king's authority. Leoric had not sent the barge into Widow's Channel with his own hands. His seal had made the lie look royal enough to obey. The token had not named Osvan. It had only proved his messenger rode beside the king's seal. Prince Anwen Fenwick looked down at the black river silver disc resting on the evidence cloth. Private couriers are often requisitioned for royal security. The cut identifies a service chain, not the person who composed the order. And the seal? Anwen asked. Belongs to the king. The answer turned every face toward Leoric. The altered route order lay open between them. Its wax carried the full Fenwick wolf, pressed deeply enough to command bridge officers, ferry hands, and royal guards without question. The order carried the king's authority. Leoric had not ordered the lie, but his seal had taught every honest hand to obey it. A king's seal could make a lie walk faster than a truth in chains. Leoric ordered the register, courier token, route keeper, and steering release moved into the bridge house under independent witness. One Pike ferryman and the mill widow accompanied the royal clerk before any evidence left the landing. Then Leoric faced the keeper of the crown seal. Open the wedding day custody book. The elderly officer bowed stiffly. The royal press is not ordinarily open to ferry inquiry. It is opened by the king, whose authority appears on a command he did not give. Anwen remained outside the inner witness circle until Leoric spoke again. Expand Anwen Pike's river, witness standing to route and seal custody. Osvan's expression cooled. She remains the accused party. She is also the only person here who identified the altered marker, the clean release, and the difference between wreck damage and deliberate opening. Anwen met Leoric's chase. Expanded standing is not my crossing. No. Leoric had suspended the taking of her ferry. He had not returned the name he let the crowd stone. The seal custody book recorded every removal of the royal press. On the morning of the wedding, it had been released twice. The first use sealed Leoric's original order directing the procession through the western span. The second occurred after the wedding barge launched. Reason: emergency route threat. The seal-bearer placed both hands on the table. I released the press to the Royal Security Office after receiving warning of an ambush. Who presented the warning? Leoric asked. A private courier carrying Prince Osvan's cut. Osvan did not retreat from the statement. My security office received reports from the northern bank. The wedding joined two politically divided river provinces. Threats were expected. Expected is not reported, Anwen said. The seal-bearer opened the threat packet. A single, unsigned page claimed armed men had been seen beneath the western bridge carrying silver hooks and fire oil. It recommended immediate redirection to Widow's Channel. Anwen read the page once. No ferry. Family warning was issued. Royal threats are not announced along public landings, Osvan answered. They are when a changed route enters cursed water. Secrecy was necessary. Royal security is a clean phrase for orders no ferryman is allowed to question. Osvan looked toward the bridge windows. Had the threat been genuine and publicly announced, the ambushers could have moved before the procession arrived. Then where is the Western Bridge inspection? The Royal Guard captain searched the wedding deployment record. No additional riders had been sent. No bridge arch had been searched. No fire oil had been recovered. No arrest had been made. Osvan's voice remained measured. The route was changed to avoid the danger. Once the procession left the western span, immediate inspection was no longer the priority. You believed armed men waited beneath a royal bridge? Anwen said. And left them there beside every merchant and child crossing after the wedding? Silence settled across the bridge house. I received the threat through my office, Osvan said. I did not personally examine the bank. The report changed the royal route, Leoric said. Who verified it? The courier was believed reliable. Summon him. The messenger arrived before nightfall under guard, still wearing the narrow black sash of Osvan's private service. He was an older man with a damaged left knee, and the stillness of someone who had carried dangerous orders longer than he had questioned them. Leoric placed the courier token before him. Is this yours? Yes. Did you carry the route change? I carried a royal sealed order from the security stair to the bridge clerk. Who gave it to you? The duty officer. Name him. The security office rotated 3 officers during the wedding launch. I received the packet through the inner slot. I did not see the hand. Osvan inclined his head slightly. as security procedure requires. Anwen watched the messenger rather than the prince. Did you carry only one order? His eyes shifted toward her. One royal order. That was not my question. The bridge clerk produced the courier custody slate. Royal messengers marked every packet by weight, seal, and destination before departure. The wedding entry showed 2 pieces placed into the messenger's satchel. One royal sealed route order. One private instruction bearing Osvan's 3-tooth courier cut. The messenger's jaw tightened. The private slip contained delivery precautions. What precautions? Leoric asked. I was instructed not to open it until the marker bell sounded. And did it? Yes. Then you read it. The messenger looked toward Osvan. The prince did not speak. I read enough to complete the delivery. Where is the instruction now? I returned it to the security office. The custody slate recorded no return. Osvan stepped closer to the table. Private instructions were frequently burned after royal movements. A missing return mark does not prove the courier retained it. Anwen examined the slate. She did not look triumphant. A woman whose river had been blamed for murder knew evidence was not victory until the record changed. A missing line is still a line someone feared enough to tear away. A fragment of thin black paper remained trapped beneath the binding cord. Its upper edge carried the private 3-tooth cut. The lower half had been torn away. The surviving words ordered the messenger to wait until the bridal barge passed the western signal bell, then replace the route plate and deliver a second instruction to the assigned steering hand. The name of that hand had been written on the missing portion. Leoric ordered the fragment preserved. The messenger lowered his head. I obeyed the royal route order. And the private instruction? Anwen asked. I delivered what I was given. To whom? I did not see his face. Then what did you see? A gloved hand through the marker house hatch. The messenger stopped there. He did not name an officer. He did not accuse a prince. 6 weeks had passed, and caution had taught him to offer only what the surviving paper could support. The route had not changed in the water. It had changed through paper, seal, courier, and silence. The royal order had sent the procession away from safety. The private instruction had directed the hand that altered the marker. But someone had torn away the line that named the hand waiting to receive the second instruction. The missing line had not named Osvan. It had named the next silence. Prince Anwen Fenwick looked at the torn instruction beneath the bridge house lamps. A private security order may name a receiving post, a guard position, or an emergency signal. Its missing half does not prove it contained a conspirator. No, Anwen said. It proves someone removed the part that could be checked. The paper may have torn during handling. Then the missing half should have been returned with the rest. Osvan's expression remained controlled. Security slips were often destroyed after royal movement. After being entered into custody? When secrecy required it. Leoric ordered the surviving fragment sealed between 2 clear river glass plates, summoned the steering officer assigned to the bridal barge and the keeper of the western signal bell. The captain of the river guard hesitated. The steering officer is no longer assigned to Blackwater. Where is he? He was transferred 3 days after the wreck. By whose order? The captain opened the reassignment register. The transfer had moved the officer from Royal Barge Service to a northern watch station beyond the Fenwick border roads. Authorizing office. Royal Security. Osvan read the entry without visible concern. The man failed to preserve the vessel. Reassignment prevented him from influencing the inquiry. Or answering it, Anwen said. He gave an initial statement. Where? The clerk searched the wreck file. No steering testimony appeared. Only a summary written by a security recorder. Officer reports steering failure under sudden current force. No evidence of deliberate interference observed before impact. Anwen read it twice. This is not a statement. It is someone else's account of one. The officer signed beneath it, Osvan said. The mark at the bottom was a thumbprint pressed in black wax. No spoken testimony. No description of the steering release. No record that he had been shown the recovered chain. Leoric ordered riders sent north to return the officer under witness. He will not reach Blackwater tonight, the captain warned. Then tonight we read what can still be read without him. The western signal bell keeper was brought from his post. He was an old ferryman who had served the bridge before Leoric inherited the crown. His hands trembled only when he saw Anwen's torn charter still hanging from the landing wall. You rang the wedding signal? Leoric asked. I rang 3 bells. Name them. First bell when the royal barge cleared the launch stakes. Second when it passed the western turning post. Third when the route marker changed. Anwen looked up sharply. The marker changed after the second bell? Yes, Osvan said. The threat report arrived after launch. The timing reflects emergency response. The bellkeeper shook his head. The third signal should never command a channel change. Why? Leoric asked. Anwen answered. The second bell marks the last safe turning breath. Blackwater widened beneath the western span before narrowing toward Widow's Channel. A heavy barge could still turn against the current before the second bell finished sounding. After that point, stone shelves beneath the water caught the hull and pushed it east. If the route plate changes after the second bell, Anwen said, the steering officer has only two choices. Hold the western line and disobey the royal marker, or follow the new channel. Osvan folded his hands behind his back. A trained officer could slow the vessel, not a wedding barge carrying 60 passengers in snowmelt. Then he could drop anchor. The anchor line crosses the steering housing. If released at that speed, it would tear through the passenger rail. The bridge keeper looked toward the recovered mechanism, and once the barge enters Widow's Channel, it cannot escape without full steering control. Leoric's gaze settled on the open release tongue. The chain had been taught to open. The marker had changed only after retreat became nearly impossible. A bell should warn a crossing, Anwen said. This one waited until warning became useless. Osvan turned toward the bellkeeper, who ordered the third signal. A private courier brought the route plate and a sealed royal command. The messenger already confirmed that. He also carried a second slip. The bellkeeper glanced toward the older courier. The messenger stood under guard near the door. Leoric faced him. You said you delivered the second instruction through the marker house hatch. Yes. Before or after the third bell? After the second. Before the third. To the steering officer? I could not see the man's face. What did you see? The messenger closed his eyes briefly. Not to remember more, but to decide what he could safely say. A black glove. Wet to the wrist. Anything else? A clasp at the cuff. What kind? Black river, silver. Narrow. Shaped like a closed wolf jaw. The captain touched the clasp on his own security coat. Royal security issue. Osvan lifted his sleeve, showing the same dark fitting. So do 30 officers assigned to the wedding route. A clasp is not a name, Anwen said. No, Osvan replied. At last we agree. The messenger continued. The hand took the private instruction. Then the hatch closed. I heard the third bell. I did not see who left the marker house. Did the steering officer normally wait there? Leoric asked. No. His station was aboard the barge. The bridge house fell quiet. The missing recipient had not necessarily been the steering officer. Someone from royal security had waited inside the marker house, received the private instruction, and remained hidden while the barge passed the last safe turning distance. Osvan spoke first. Security officers were posted along the crossing. A gloved hand proves only that one performed his duty. Which duty? Anwen asked. Changing a route after warning became useless, or delivering the order that opened the steering chain? That has not been established. No. Again, she did not stretch evidence into accusation. Leoric ordered the royal security station searched, and its wedding day destruction records opened. Osvan objected. Those records include protected threat reports from every river province. Then independent witnesses will examine only the entries tied to the wedding hour. He expanded Anwen's temporary standing to the steering route audit. Her charter remained torn. Her ferry remained guarded. A king could suspend punishment faster than he could repair the name it broke. The security destruction ledger listed 4 slips burned after the wedding launch. 3 were routine guard placements. The 4th carried no subject. The brazier beneath the security stair had not been cleaned since the wreck. Rain leaking through the chimney had hardened the ash into black layers. Under witness, the clerk lifted each burned fragment with silver tongs. Anwen compared the fibers against the torn private instruction. The same thin black paper. The same river reed weave. One scorched edge matched the missing lower tier. The fragment did not preserve a signature. It did not preserve a destination. Only one word remained visible beneath the burn. Bride. The burned word did not tell them whether Malin had been protected, moved, or marked. Prince Anwen Fenwick stood beside the security brazier, while the scorched fragment rested between river glass plates. Bride could refer to guard placement, ceremonial timing, or evacuation protocol. Then the wedding security roster will show which, Anwen said. The roster contains private movements of the royal household. So did the instruction that sent her into Widow's Channel. Leoric ordered the bridal security records opened under the same independent witnesses. The first slate listed the public procession: 6 outriders, 2 bridge guards, 1 royal barge, and 3 escort boats. The second listed private assignments. Lady Malin Harrow had requested 2 changes before launch. She wanted Anwen Pike named crossing master. She also wanted her senior Harrow attendant beside her on the barge, instead of a royal security officer. Both requests had been denied. Authorizing office. Royal security. Osvan read the marks without hesitation. A former lover of the king was not an appropriate pilot for his bride's procession. Anwen looked at him. The river does not ask whom the king once loved. The court does. And the court put ceremony above the person who knew the crossing. Leoric's gaze remained on Malin's request. He had not seen it before the wedding. That did not free him from what followed. He had allowed his brother's office to control every movement around the marriage, then accepted that same office's account when the bride died. Why did Malin request Anwen? He asked. The bridal chamber clerk searched the attached statements. No reason had been entered. Only a note from Malin herself. Mistress Pike knows which currents pretend to yield. The handwriting was narrow and deliberate. Anwen read it twice. Malin had met her only 3 times before the wedding. She had never treated Anwen as a discarded woman circling another woman's future. She had asked about river depth, winter ropes, and which rescue knives could be opened with one hand beneath water. The court had turned them into rivals because rivalry was easier to understand than 2 women recognizing danger in different forms. Osvan said, "The bride's preference does not establish sabotage." "No," Anwen replied. "It establishes that she distrusted the official route before the barge launched. That is interpretation. Then open her embarkation record." The barge master's slate showed Malin arrived 12 minutes before departure. She carried no trunk, only a prayer book, her bridal mantle, and a small river silver seal assigned to royal brides traveling under crown protection. The seal was missing from the recovered effects. Leoric looked toward the route marker keeper inside the veil. Was the bride's river seal shaped like that pin? The chamber clerk shook her head. The seal was round, no larger than a thumb joint. It bore the joined Harrow and Fenwick marks. Anwen remembered the weight inside Malin's veil knot. The root pin had not been the only pressure against her palm beneath the water. Something smaller had been tied inside the innermost fold. The river had returned only the outer knot. "There was another object," she said. Osvan's attention sharpened. "You never mentioned it." "I could not see it beneath the barge." "You felt it?" "I felt 2 weights. The current tore the cloth before I reached the cabin boy." Osvan looked toward Leoric. 6 weeks after the wreck, she now remembers a second object. Anwen's voice stayed level. "I remembered it the night your court called rescue murder. No one allowed the difference into the record." Leoric ordered the original hearing statement brought forward. The assessor had reduced Anwen's account to 1 line. Accused claims bride placed torn fabric in her hand during submersion. No mention of the knot. No mention of weight. No mention of Malin pushing her toward another passenger. No mention of save him. Anwen touched none of the pages. "You did not lose faith in me slowly," she said to Leoric. "You signed it." He did not move closer. He ordered her complete statement entered under River Witness Authority, and the earlier summary marked incomplete. The correction did not return the ferry. It did not erase the stones thrown at her feet. It only stopped the court from pretending she had never spoken. The senior Harrow attendant was summoned from the mourning house. She was a gray-haired woman who had served Malin since childhood and had been removed from the wedding barge at the last moment. "Why were you reassigned?" Leoric asked. "A security officer said my place had been changed to the 3rd escort boat." "By whose instruction?" "He showed me a private slip with Prince Osvan's courier cut." Osvan answered calmly. "The bridal guard was reorganized after the threat report." The attendant looked at him. "You also refused Lady Malin permission to speak privately with Mistress Pike before launch." The bridge house stilled. Osvan's expression did not change. "I refused an unscheduled delay during an active security threat." "What did Malin want?" Anwen asked. The woman faced her. She had nodded something into the lower edge of her veil. She told me that if the procession changed course, I was to place it in your hands. Did she say why? She said you would know what the river silver opened. Osvan folded his hands. That could refer to an emergency route tool. Yes, Anwen said. The tool that opened the marker and the steering release. The same tool might have been carried for protection. Then why hide it in a drowning knot? He did not answer. The attendant continued. Lady Malin also wrote a warning before she dressed. She sealed it with the bridal river mark and ordered it sent to Mistress Pike. Where is it? Leoric asked. The security officer took it. He said no private message could pass into the procession after the threat report. The wedding correspondence ledger recorded one intercepted bridal note. Recipient: Anwen Pike. Disposition: retained for royal safety. No return, no delivery. The entry carried the royal security mark. Osvan said. Intercepted correspondence was standard during a threat. Was it opened? Leoric asked. The ledger does not say. Was it destroyed? No destruction mark appears. Leoric ordered the security message vault opened. The note was not there, but the registry preserved the outer wording copied before seizure. Anwen, read the line. If the route changes, do not follow the bell. Keep the king from the river blessing after the vows. Leoric's face hardened. The river blessing was to occur after our marriage. Osvan looked at the copied warning. Malin may have feared the reported ambush extended beyond the crossing. Then why send the warning to Anwen? Leoric asked. Because she trusted a ferryman's judgment. Anwen corrected him. Because she trusted mine. The words left no room for old affection to soften what he had done. Malin's warning did not name Osvan. It did not explain what waited after the vows. But it proved the bride had feared two linked dangers before the barge launched. A changed river route and something prepared for the king after the wedding. The bridal seal that had closed the missing message was gone. And according to the security register, the last person authorized to hold it before Malin boarded was Prince Osvan's duty officer. The missing bridal seal had been used after Malin was denied the right to send her warning. The wedding custody register showed that Lady Malin Harrow's river seal had been released to the royal security duty officer 1 hour before launch for ceremonial inspection. It had never been returned to her attendant, entered among the recovered effects, or marked destroyed. Prince Anwen Fenwick examined the page. Bridal seals are routinely checked before a royal river ceremony. By the bride's chamber keeper, Anwen said. Not by security. The threat report changed ordinary procedure. The threat report appears whenever your office needs a locked door opened. Osvan remained composed. Then show us where the seal went, Anwen said. Leoric ordered the river blessing file opened. After the vows, he and Malin had been meant to stand on the blessing platform downstream from Blackwater Bridge. 2 safety chains secured it. One beneath the king's seal, the other beneath the bride's. Both were supposed to remain fastened until the blessing bell ended. The preparation slate showed Malin's seal pressed into the bridal chain housing before the procession launched. Why would her seal be used before she reached the platform? Leoric asked. It should not have been, the bridge keeper said. Osvan replied. The fitting may have been tested in advance. Then there should be an inspection witness, Anwen said. There was none. Only the royal security duty mark. The same office had intercepted Malin's warning, reassigned the steering officer, and received the torn private instruction after the route changed. Leoric ordered the platform sealed and inspected under ferry witness. Anwen's standing expanded again. Her charter remained torn. Her crossing remained under crown guard. The blessing platform stood on black pilings where the current narrowed below the bridge. Beneath its stone floor, the river struck iron fins meant to make the platform tremble during the final vow. Anwen knelt beside the bridal safety housing. The chain appeared locked. She pulled once. It held. Then she pressed beneath the lower clasp. The fastening opened. No break, she said. No rust. The locking tooth was removed. Osvan descended the steps. A maintenance defect. Not with a fresh cut. A narrow tooth had been filed away, allowing the chain to hold light pressure, while failing under the full weight of 2 people leaning toward the river basin. Leoric tested it. The fastening remained shut until he shifted forward. Then it slipped open. Had the barge reached Blackwater safely and the vows been completed, the bridal chain would have released during the blessing. The current beneath the pilings was deep enough to drag an armored wolf under before guards could reach him. Bridge crews maintain this platform, Osvan said. Not royal security. But Malin's seal was used here, Anwen replied. To test the fitting, after someone removed the tooth that made it safe. That sequence has not been proved. No. She refused to turn inference into confession. The bridge keepers scraped hardened river wax from the housing. Inside it remained a partial impression of the joined Heroic Fenwick bridle mark. Malin's seal had been pressed there. The warning said to keep me from the river blessing, Leoric said. She knew something had been prepared here, Anwen answered. Then why board the barge? Because refusing publicly would have warned whoever controlled the route, Osvan said. Or because she feared a general threat, not this mechanism. Then your office should have preserved her message, Leoric said. It was received during an emergency, and disappeared under your custody, under the duty officer's custody. Where is he? The personnel book showed the officer had left Blackwater the morning after the wreck. Not reassigned. Released from service under emergency discretion. The authorization carried only Osvan's office mark. My office released several compromised officers after the failure, Osvan said. That was necessary. The pay ledger showed the man's final payment had been sent to Greymouth Weir 2 days north. The receipt was unsigned. Anwen studied the empty groove in the chain housing. The missing locking tooth had been cut from black river silver, the same metal as the route keeper returned inside Malin's veil. What shape was the bride's seal? She asked. Round, the chamber clerk said. With a narrow tooth beneath the mark so it could open ceremonial housings. The seal design matched the groove. Its lower tooth could have entered the housing, Osvan said. An absent seal cannot be accused of cutting metal. No. But Malin tied 2 weights into her veil. The river returned only 1. The route keeper had opened the marker housing and the steering release. The second weight might have been the bridal seal linked to the unsafe blessing chain. The remaining veil is still beneath the wreck, Leoric said. If the current has not moved it, I will send divers. They already failed to reach the inner cabin. Then more will go. No. Anwen's refusal carried across the platform. Widow's Channel closes around men who fight its pull. The cloth will be lodged where Malin released it, beneath the eastern ribs of the hull. You cannot enter that current alone. You forbade me from operating a vessel. The confiscation remains suspended. Suspended is still a crown rope around my boat. Anwen, do not stand close because the dead bride feared for you. Stand near the record because your court buried her warning and called my rescue murder. Leoric stopped several feet away. At moonless ebb, Anwen said, the wreck will lift from the stone shelf for 7 breaths. A pike boat can reach the eastern ribs before it settles again. Your charter remains under inquiry. So does your seal. A king could forbid a widow from crossing her own river. He could not make another hand know where Blackwater briefly loosened its grip. Anwen looked from her torn charter to the darkening channel. At moonless ebb I am taking my ferry into Widow's Channel. The moonless ebb gave Blackwater 7 breaths and no mercy beyond them. Anwen Pike pushed her ferry from the royal landing before the first bell finished sounding. The crown guard moved to stop her. Leoric raised one hand. Let her pass. Anwen did not thank him. The ferry remained under seizure. The charter above the landing remained torn. A king allowing a widow to use her own boat for one dangerous crossing was not restoration. Leoric stepped toward the bow. You are not coming. I will not send you alone. You already sent me alone when you signed the decree. The words stopped him. Anwen secured an evidence chest beneath the center bench. The old Pike ferry was built for flood work. Shallow keel, flexible ribs, 2 stern oars, and no iron beneath the waterline for Blackwater to catch. She allowed 1 passenger, the western bridge keeper, a witness who understood river distance. Osvan stood on the landing. This crossing violates the seizure order. The seizure is suspended, Leoric said. Suspended custody does not restore her authority. No, Anwen answered. But Widow's Channel does not care which brother has the cleaner paper. She pushed away. Blackwater took the ferry sideways before the second stroke. Anwen corrected with 1 oar, then let the current carry them beneath the bridge. Fighting too early would turn the hull broadside. She waited until the western current loosened, then cut across it at the angle Bran Pike had taught her during spring floods. Her husband had once said Blackwater punished panic before error. She offered it neither. The wedding barge appeared inside the channel, one side pinned beneath a stone shelf. Its carved wolf prow pointed downward, as though still obeying the false route. The first ebb breath lifted the wreck an inch. The second exposed the eastern ribs. Anwen looped the ferry line around a bridge stump and lowered herself over the side. Cold closed above her head. She followed the wreck by touch, counting ribs with her left hand while her right held Bran's rescue knife. At the sixth rib, her fingers found bridle cloth caught between broken planks. She cut once. The current pulled the fabric deeper. Third breath. Anwen forced her arm beneath the rib until wood tore her knuckles. Her fingers closed around a hard round weight knotted inside the veil. The bridle seal. Something else held the cloth. A strip of black leather wound around the steering release. A glove cuff. Anwen did not tear it free. Evidence dragged without witness became another difference the court could erase. She tied the witness cord around veil, seal, leather, and release housing together. Then the wreck dropped. The sixth rib pinned her sleeve. Fourth breath. She cut the fabric from her arm. The current rolled her beneath the hull. Through shattered boards, she saw only wreckage. No ghost waited to explain what living people had hidden. Anwen kicked toward the witness line. The fifth breath ended before she reached open water. The barge settled lower. Her skirt caught beneath a broken rail. She cut the hem away. Anwen surfaced on the sixth breath. The keeper dragged her over the ferry side. The final breath passed. The wreck slammed onto the stone shelf, throwing a wave against the ferry. Anwen seized both stern oars. Her hands bled. Her lungs burned. She still read the water. 1 stroke to avoid the shelf. 2 to clear the reverse coil. Then she let the channel throw them toward the western span. Leoric stood at the landing when the ferry returned. He had removed his cloak and armor, as though preparing to enter the river himself. Anwen stepped ashore without taking his offered hand. Do not stand close because the river frightened you. His hand lowered. The evidence was opened beneath witnesses. Inside the remaining veil knot lay Malin's round bridal river seal. One narrow tooth beneath its joined Heroic Fenwick mark had been freshly scored. It matched the missing groove inside the blessing platform chain. Osvan examined it. Possession does not establish use. Malin may have carried her own seal after inspection. She hid it in a drowning knot, Anwen said. Because she feared losing it. Or because she took it from the hand using it. That remains interpretation. Yes. Anwen turned to the black leather still tied to the steering release. The cuff carried a torn mounting hole where a river silver clasp had been removed. Royal security issue. The bridge keeper recorded every knot before the leather was cut free. Inside the cuff, protected from 6 weeks of current, remained a faint pressed mark. 3 narrow teeth. Osvan's private courier cut. A cut was not a hand. A uniform was not a prince. But the private instruction, the gloved hand at the marker house, and the steering release now belonged to the same custody chain. Leoric ordered the leather preserved and every wedding day security uniform inspected against the cuff. Then he looked at Anwen's bleeding hand. He did not touch it. Your witness standing is expanded to the wreck and security uniform audit. My charter? Still under inquiry. You can widen my duty faster than you can return my name. He accepted the blow without defense. The chamber clerk cleaned the bridal seal and turned it beneath the lamp. A narrow line had been scratched around its outer edge after the joined housemark was pressed. Tiny river script. Anwen read it aloud. If I do not reach the blessing, ask who needed the king to stand where the bridal chain would fail. Malin had not named Osvan. She had named the purpose. The wreck had not been meant only to drown a bride. It had been meant to bury the warning that someone still intended to kill the king. Malin's warning had named a purpose, not the hand that meant to carry it out. Prince Anwen Fenwick stood beneath the bridge house lamps while the recovered security cuff, bridal seal, and steering release lay in separate witness trays. A private courier cut appears on service fittings throughout the Royal Security Office, he said. The cuff may have been lost, stolen, or transferred before the wreck. Then the uniform audit will show which, Anwen replied. Leoric ordered every wedding day security coat brought to Blackwater crossing before midnight. 31 officers had been assigned to the procession, bridge, blessing platform, and route houses. Each uniform carried a numbered clasp, cuff measurement, repair history, and station mark. Anwen's charter still hung torn above the landing. Her ferry remained under guard. Leoric had widened her witness authority until she could examine the clothing of royal officers. But the crown still treated her own boat as something she might misuse. "A king can borrow a woman's knowledge without returning the name he broke," she said. Leoric did not defend himself. The uniform clerk read the inventory aloud. 30 coats had been returned complete. One had received a replacement right cuff on the morning after the wreck. Reason: river damage during emergency route correction. The damaged cuff had not been returned to stores. Osvan looked at the line. An officer may have torn it while securing the crossing after the barge sank. "Which officer?" Leoric asked. The clerk turned the slate. The uniform belonged to the discharged Royal Security Duty officer, whose final payment had been sent toward Greymouth Weir. His wedding station was listed as Western Marker House Oversight. Anwen placed the recovered cuff beside the repair measurements. The width matched. The seam count matched. So did the spacing of the missing clasp holes. "That identifies the uniform issue," Osvan said. "Not who wore it when the chain opened." "No," Anwen answered. She lifted the cuff with wooden tongs and turned the inner seam toward the bridge keeper. A black smear lay beneath the fold. "Bell grease," he said. The Western signal bell used a mixture of pine pitch and fish oil to keep its axle from freezing. No other bridge mechanism carried the same bitter scent. The cuff had been inside the marker house, near the bell, near the private instruction. Anwen examined the torn clasp holes. The leather had stretched toward the steering release, not away from it. Whoever wore the glove had caught the cuff while withdrawing a hand from the open mechanism. "The cloth did not drift into the release after the wreck," she said. "It tore while the fastening was being handled." Osvan's expression remained controlled, or while someone attempted to repair it during the sinking. The steering officer's station was above deck. This cuff belonged to the officer posted at the marker house. "Uniforms can be exchanged." "Then open the exchange register." No exchange had been recorded. The duty officer had signed for the coat 3 days before the wedding and requested its replacement cuff the morning after the wreck. The request carried a security recorder's mark, not a personal witness. Leoric ordered the officer's discharge packet reopened. Inside was a short statement: removed after operational failure. No further questioning required due to compromised royal movement. "Who decided no questioning was required?" Leoric asked. "The Emergency Security Office," Osvan said. "Your office." "An office is not one hand." "No," Anwen said. "But it can become a room where every hand disappears." The final pay token had been sent to Greymouth Weir. Riders returned near dawn with the Weir ledger and its keeper. The discharged officer had never arrived. No northern gate had recorded him. No ferry family had carried him across the upper river. The payment token had been collected at Greymouth by a palace courier who presented a royal security passage. The courier's name line was blank. Osvan said, "Emergency couriers often collect final wages for displaced officers." "Where was the money delivered?" Leoric asked. The Greymouth keeper pointed to the return column. "Blackwater crossing. Private security house." The payment had traveled north only long enough to create a destination. Then it had returned to the office that claimed the officer had left. Anwen looked toward the guarded security stair. He was not paid to disappear north. Osvan's voice sharpened. "You cannot know what arrangement he made after discharge." "No. But the record cannot call Greymouth his destination when Greymouth sent his pay back here." Leoric ordered every room, cellar, stable, and river store under the private security house opened under mixed witness. Osvan stepped between him and the stair. "You would expose active royal defenses during an unresolved threat. The only threat report we have found sent my bride toward cursed water and prepared a broken chain beneath my feet. You are allowing grief to turn suspicion into dismantling." Leoric looked at him. Grief already turned suspicion into a widow's sentence. "I will not let security use it twice." Anwen heard the words without mistaking them for repair. He had named his error to his brother. He had not yet named it before the crowd that had called her murderer. The search found no discharged officer in the sleeping rooms or stable lofts. In the cellar beneath the security stair, however, the witnesses discovered a narrow river door opening onto an old maintenance passage. Fresh mud marked the threshold. The passage led beneath the bridge toward the abandoned toll chamber beside Anwen's seized landing. Osvan said, "Smugglers have used these foundations for generations. Then your office failed to secure the ground beneath its own stair, Anwen replied. She followed the mud with the bridge keeper. The prints were 6 weeks old beneath the first layer, then renewed within the last 2 nights. Someone had returned after the inquiry reopened. Inside the abandoned toll chamber, they found a stripped security coat, one right cuff newly sewn, and a packet of dried food. No officer waited beside it. On the wall, a river route had been scratched with charcoal. The western span, Widow's Channel, the blessing platform. 3 stages connected by 1 line. At the end, beneath the platform mark, someone had written, "If the bride reaches shore, the king must still reach the chain." The handwriting did not name Osvan, but the room contained a second courier token bearing his 3-tooth cut, and this token had been issued 2 days after Malin drowned. The second token had been issued after Malin drowned. That made it more dangerous than the one used before the wedding. Prince Anwen Fenwick stood inside the abandoned toll chamber while the token rested in the bridgekeeper's palm. A post-wreck token could have been issued for search, recovery, or witness management. Then the issue book will name its purpose, Anwen said. The private security register showed the token released 2 days after the wreck. Recipient, Emergency Field Officer. Purpose, retrieve compromised route materials. Return, not recorded. Osvan looked at Leoric. The route marker, steering housing, and security papers were all compromised. Recovery was necessary. Under whose direction? Leoric asked. The office acted under standing emergency authority. Your authority. Administrative authority is not personal instruction. Anwen studied the charcoal route on the wall. The western span, Widow's Channel, and Blessing platform had been joined before anyone knew the inquiry would reopen. The line did not prove who planned the stages. It proved someone understood them as one operation. What materials were retrieved? She asked. The register held no list. The security destruction book marked 3 items burned after the token was issued. A route copy, a bridle, message wrapper, and an officer location slip. The office destroyed an officer's location after claiming he had gone north, Anwen said. Osvan replied. Compromised locations are removed to protect discharged staff, or to hide the man who wore the cuff. Leoric ordered the post-wreck token traced through every security gate. One clerk remembered it. The courier had entered the lower bridge passage after midnight carrying food, lamp oil, and a physician's packet. The packet mark belonged to a healer attached to the private security house. She confirmed treating a man with a torn wrist, bruised ribs, and river fever during the week after the wreck. She had been ordered to record him as an unidentified guard injured during rescue. Was he the discharged duty officer? Leoric asked. I was not permitted to ask his name. Where was he kept? In the old flood chamber beneath the East Bridge Tower, Osvan said. Injured officers may be isolated during an active threat. For 6 weeks? Anwen asked. Then why invent Greymouth? The healer lowered her eyes. I was told the northern transfer would prevent questions until he recovered. Who told you? A masked duty recorder. Not Osvan. Not yet. The east flood chamber was empty. A pallet remained beside a cold stove. Blood-dark bandages lay beneath the bench. The submerged escape gate chain was wet. He left by river, Anwen said. Leoric ordered boats downstream. Not downstream. The current beneath this tower reverses at midday. It carries anything released here toward my landing. They found the missing officer inside Anwen Pike's abandoned rope shed, exhausted and holding a stolen ferryman's knife to his throat. I was told the king had condemned the ferrywoman, he said. I was told the inquiry was closed. Anwen stood beyond the doorway. It was closed before the river lowered, his gaze fixed on her. You returned to the channel. Yes. Then she gave you the seal. Malin gave me a knot. The river kept it until the court could be made to read. Osvan stepped into view. You are under royal protection. Put down the knife and make no statement until counsel is appointed. The man's fear deepened. Anwen understood why. He is not afraid of being questioned. He is afraid his answer will belong to the office that hid him. Leoric removed the Fenwick seal ring and placed it on the ground. No private security officer will take your statement. You will speak before bridge witnesses. The knife lowered. Not trust. Only the first absence of the authority that had kept him silent. By sunset, A public hearing assembled on Blackwater Bridge. The officer testified that he received 2 instructions on the wedding day. The first ordered him to change the route marker after the second bell. The second ordered him to open the steering release when the barge entered Widow's Channel. Both arrived through private security channels. Who signed them? Leoric asked. No personal name. Whose cut? Osvan's courier cut. Osvan faced the witnesses. My office cut appeared on every private instruction issued that day. The officer continued. I believe the king approved the route because the royal seal was attached. Leoric did not look away. His seal had taught another honest hand to obey the lie. Why were you hidden after the wreck? Anwen asked. I was told the failed route had killed the bride and that the ferrywoman sabotaged the marker. Then I saw the steering report. It said the chain broke. But you opened it. Yes. The word struck the bridge harder than any confession from Osvan could have. The officer had followed a royal-looking order and helped make the wreck possible without knowing its purpose. Who ordered your concealment? Leoric asked. A masked recorder brought the second token and said Prince Osvan's office would protect me until the widow was sentenced. Osvan's expression hardened. A masked recorder's claim is not mine. No, Anwen said. But your office issued the token, paid the false transfer, burned the location slip, and prepared my guilt. The public record was finally carrying the chain the river had held in silence. The officer reached inside his coat and removed a folded strip of bridal paper. I was told to burn this. I kept it because the bride's seal was already broken. The message was addressed to Leoric. Only the first line remained intact. Your brother knows the river blessing will kill you, and he has chosen the wreck to silence me first. The bridal message did not end the inquiry. It ended Osvan's ability to call every link unrelated. Prince Anwen Fenwick stood before the bridge witnesses while Malin's surviving words lay beneath river glass. A broken message can be forged, altered, or read beyond its meaning, he said. It does not prove I ordered a wreck. No, Anwen replied. The message names what she feared. The records show how that fear was made possible. The hearing read the chain aloud. A false ambush report redirected the wedding route. Leoric's seal made the change lawful enough to obey. Osvan's courier cut carried the private instruction. Anwen's stolen ferry seal fastened the altered marker. A royal security officer waited until the barge passed the last safe turning breath. The route plate changed. The steering release opened. Malin's warning was intercepted. Her bridal seal was used on a blessing chain prepared to fail beneath the king. After the wreck, Osvan's office hid the duty officer, invented a northern transfer, burned his location record, and prepared Anwen's condemnation before Blackwater lowered. Osvan did not confess. He argued that his office had been infiltrated, that royal security had acted under emergency authority, and that no surviving paper carried his personal signature ordering Malin's death. The Bridge Council recorded every defense. Then Leoric removed his brother from Royal Security Command and placed him under guarded inquiry for misuse of the private courier chain, concealment of a material witness, destruction of root evidence, and preparation of a false public charge. You are choosing a ferryman's interpretation over royal blood, Osvan said. No, Leoric answered. I am choosing a record royal blood tried to control. Osvan surrendered the three-tooth courier clasp. No crowd was permitted to strike him. Anwen had learned what public certainty could do when fed grief and rank. She would not let justice become another stone thrown before evidence finished speaking. The council turned next to Malin Harrow. Her complete final actions were entered into the royal record. She discovered that the route and blessing ceremony had been compromised. She requested Anwen as crossing master. She attempted to send Anwen a warning. When the barge overturned, she gave Anwen the knotted veil and directed her toward a trapped passenger instead of demanding rescue for herself. Malin had not died as a jealous bride betrayed by a former lover. She had chosen another life while trying to preserve the truth that might save her husband. Her name was entered among the river dead, who surrendered their own chance of rescue. Then the clerk opened Anwen Pike's condemnation order. The charge that she deliberately drowned the royal bride was struck from the bridge register. The claim that she abandoned Malin was replaced with the witnessed account of her 3 dives beneath the wreck, the 5 passengers she helped return, and Malin's final command to save another. Leoric faced the people who had gathered to watch Anwen lose her crossing. I let grief make certainty easier than truth, he said. I signed her sentence before the river lowered. I allowed my seal, my brother's office, and my own need for blame to stand above the knowledge of the woman who had kept this crossing safe for years. When the crowd named her jealous and murderous, I did not silence them. That failure belongs to my crown and to me. He did not ask Anwen to forgive him. A public admission was not payment. It was the first honest entry in a debt that would remain. The torn Pike charter was brought from the landing. Leoric did not return it with his own hand. The oldest Pike ferryman, the mill widow, and the western bridge-keeper placed a new charter before Anwen. It restored her ferry, toll rights, river stores, and authority to refuse any royal route she judged unsafe. Bran Pike's name was added beneath hers as the ferryman who died defending the crossing during the spring flood. The charter also ended sole royal control over route changes. No royal procession could enter Blackwater without approval from a ferry family witness, a bridge-keeper, and an independent crossing officer. Emergency security orders could not alter a channel after the second bell. Every seal use required a named hand. Anwen signed last. Authority came before affection. At sunset, she untied the Pike ferry from the crown rope. Leoric waited at the landing without cloak, escort, or royal seal. "You may cross when the other passengers have boarded," she said. He accepted the place she gave him. A grain merchant entered first. Then 2 village women, a bridge mason, and the old bellkeeper. Leoric sat on the final bench like any man who needed the river and did not own the hand guiding him across it. Anwen pushed from shore. Blackwater moved beneath them in dark, patient coils. Halfway across, Leoric spoke quietly. "I remembered every lesson you taught me about this river. You remembered them after your seal failed you. Yes, you loved me once and still found it easier to believe I killed her." His face tightened, but he did not turn away. "I chose the version of grief that asked least of me." Anwen kept both hands on the oar. "That truth does not purchase another chance." "I know." On the western bank, the passengers stepped ashore. Leoric remained seated until Anwen looked at him. "Tomorrow," she said, "you will return without guards and read the new route charter to every royal officer assigned to Blackwater." "I will." "And after that, you decide whether I cross again." She lowered the gangplank. It was not forgiveness. It was not a promise. But for the first time, Leoric waited for Anwen's permission before stepping onto her river.